underground, 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 underground,
Greetings, surface dwellers. My name is Michael, and these are my chthonic musings. Today's video is going to be on a topic that nobody asked for, because I haven't heard anybody, talking about such an idea. It's possible that it's a unique take that I have, or something that I've independently come up with that other people have thought about. But in any case, welcome to the thought experiment that I'm calling just-in-time hit points. So before I explain this idea, I would just like to go over some of the various impetuses that converge to have me explain this here in this video. A perennial topic among gamers, particularly old school gamers, has bubbled up in the dungeon tube as of late, and that is the ideas of fairness and balance. And don't worry, I'm not going to give a dissertation about the evils of challenge ratings or anything like that. But my topic, my idea, does border on the ideas of fairness and balance. Another topic recently seen scouring the corridors of Dungeon Tube has been ranking various editions of Dungeons and Dragons, the various D&D games and editions. I personally have not experienced every version. I have a tendency to be involved with D&D, starting with first edition AD&D, and then drift off into other endeavors, and then get pulled back for third edition through, oddly enough, the video game Neverwinter Nights, which was excellent, but that brought me back into gaming in D&D. And then finally, I drifted off again from it, and finally back in with fifth edition by being invited as a player to a game. And my experiences have been, I've had fun in every time that I've gamed, regardless of the edition. And to be certain, there have been also things in every edition that I've bounced off of, and it's like, I wish it wasn't like this. And other things that I thought, oh, this is really cool, this is interesting. Specifically in various mechanics and techniques, and procedures that are done in the various editions. And it got me thinking about fifth edition, and I'm not talking about the fifth edition, the 5.5. I know nothing about, and I'm not exploring that. But the original fifth edition had it certainly has some things that I wince about, and I wish it wasn't like that. But it also has some interesting things and specifically mechanics that I think could have been better. They're good ideas, but poorly executed. One of them being exhaustion and levels of exhaustion, and how them being just too punitive to actually be usable. But an excellent idea. And the other one is spending hit dice. I think it was an interesting idea, but in my experience, we always seem to like fast forward past that. We're doing stuff, and then everybody's looking to do long rest, and like kind of negate the whole mechanic of having hit dice and spending them during short rests, because we had a tendency to skip over them. And I don't know if that's from what I hear, it's not an uncommon problem. So there's your first clue. We're going to see a little bit about maybe salvaging the good parts and the interesting parts of spending hit dice. And finally, we'll bring in the idea of the precision of knowledge that characters have, or players have, regarding their own character's health, I'll call it. And I'm not going to get into a whole, discussion about what are hit points and exactly what is the proportion of, actual physical wounds versus some level of fatigue versus some element of luck or what have you. But just the mechanics of knowing precisely how many hit points you have left. I can take, 3.6 more swipes of an owlbear's claw before I bite it, and that'll be the last part that we bring into it. So in many games, starting with Dungeons and Dragons, and continuing with many games that are influenced or based on that game, you have games where the player characters have levels and different classes that they belong to. Classes such as fighter, cleric, or wizard. And at each of these levels, as your player progresses, you have a hit die of various type and size that's based on your class of character. With characters such as fighters having larger hit dice, 10-sided or 8-sided, and other characters, having medium-sized dice, either 6-sided or 8-sided, depending on the game, and other characters with the lowest types of hit dice, maybe only a 4-sided die or a 6-sided die. And these characters also have hit points, which are based on that die. So at each level, starting with character generation for first level, whatever type of die your character class gets, you roll it once, and that will determine, will add to or establish or add to your hit point total. That is to say, your hit point maximum when your character is, at their best and fully healed. All right, here's a selection of 4 different games, highlighting the type of game mechanic I'm talking about. First up, we have Dungeons and Dragons Basic, Moldvay Basic, the B and BX. We can see the type of hit dice that they have. For a fighter, it's a D8. A cleric, it's a D6. Magic user is a D4. And I'm not going to go over every class in every game. I'm going to use these 3 classes as archetypes that highlight this mechanic. And we can see in BX, your hit points that you roll can be modified by your constitution if it's not 0, and anywhere from -3 to a +3. And with the 0 being far more common than the extremes. So, more common than a +1, and +1 being more common than +2. And the +3 and -3 are the far extremes, but possible. And just to round it out, BX does have an optional rule where the Dungeon Master can decide that people can re-roll 1s or 2s on their first hit die roll for first level, and first level only. And this rule, of course, would skew things up so that the minimum hit points that you could have would be 3, but your maximum is still constrained by the class. For 5th edition D&D, we see that the hit dice have been bumped up a little bit, inflated to D10 for fighters, D8 for cleric, and D6 for wizards. The constitution modifiers are also quite a bit flattened and broadened, so it goes from -4 to +4. Also of note, the first level characters always get the maximum, so they don't roll for the first level. Fighters start with a base of 10, and clerics 8 and wizard 6, and the modifiers go from there. Also, as an optional rule, the hit points for each additional level from second up can be fixed. That is to say, they're not random. A fighter doesn't roll a d10 for second level. They simply get a 6 and add 6 hit points, which can then be modified to their hit point maximum. But like I said, this is an optional rule, so other tables can decide to do, keep the randomness and keep the rolling of the dice. I will note that in organized play in the Adventures League, it was the case that they used the fixed hit points. Also, if feats were being used in the game, there could be, I know there was at least one feat called Toughness, which would directly impact your maximum hit points and add to it. And I won't pretend that I have memorized all the different feats, so there could be others as well. In Shadow Dark, we have a mix of old and new. We see that the hit dice, go back to the BX levels of D8s for fighters and D6s for priests and D4s for wizards. The ability modifiers, including for Constitution, are the same as 5th edition D&D, the -4 to +4. But there is no maximum hit points at first level. There isn't even the BX optional rule to reroll 1s or 2s. In Shadow Dark, you get what you get. And a couple of other notes. Unlike any of the other games listed here, your Constitution modifier to your hit points occurs once at first level. Your hit die rolls at second, third, fourth level, etc. are not modified by Constitution. It is just the roll of the die. I will mention, though, that the ancestries in Shadow Dark each ancestry has its own shtick, so to speak, very simplified advantage you get for being of that ancestry. And for dwarves, the advantage is called Stout, which gives +2 hit points at first level, as well as rolling hit points per level with advantage. That is, at second plus level, when you roll for hit points, you roll twice and take the better result. And finally, with the Dragon Slayer RPG by OSR Publishing, we see kind of a mix of a few interesting design choices. The Fighter and Cleric have hit dice sizes the same as 5th edition, so a little bumped up from BX back in the time, but the magic user is left at the D4, so it creates a little bit of a wider spread between the fighter and the magic user in hit points. Constitution modifiers are very much like BX in the -3 to +3, but then like 5th edition, we have maximum hit points at first level. So there's no rolling for the hit points at first level. It's just whatever the maximum of the hit die is. And then from that point on, each additional level, there is rolling for hit points. Now, you could be saying, this is all well and good, Michael, but what does this have to do with, fairness and balance or any of the other things that you were talking about? Well, the thing about the rolling for hit points, and also to an extent like when you roll randomly for your ability scores or attributes or whatever you want to call them, unlike the other randomness during the play, where we're either rolling for detecting secret doors or thieves hiding in shadows or just basic to hit rolls, to hit with your sword or such. These random rolls occur once, or once per level in this case for the hit points, and then they stick, or I'll say they have a persistence. that our other random rolls in the games do not. Generally speaking, if you swing your sword and you miss, then, that's too bad. But, you didn't connect, you don't do damage, and, try better next time. But the next time you roll to hit, it is not impacted in any way by your prior rolls. You're consistently starting with a clean slate. That is not the case with the hit points. All right, let me see if I can explain this better with a sample. Let's say we have 3 players in our game, and they are playing these archetype classes that I picked out for the other sample information. A fighter, a cleric, and a magic user. The fighter has a D8 hit die, the cleric D6, and the magic user D4. And they start out at level 1 with the rolls that we see here. Now I'm not going to include any constitution modifiers for this sample. I'm just going to strictly be looking at the die rolls. And if, like in BX, if we're rolling, 3d6 down the line for attributes or ability scores, I should say, it's not unlikely that our constitution is going to be somewhere in that top of the bell curve between 9 and 12, and have no impact negatively or positively on our hit points. And also rolling here for 2nd level hit points and 3rd level hit points. And I actually did just roll this up, and it served as a fairly good example of what I was trying to explain. So we'll go through it. The fighter rolling D8s will generate a number from 1 to 8 each time that die is rolled, with an average of 4.5. So we can see here that the fighter rolled kind of average, just a little bit, on the lower side, but you can't actually roll a 4.5. It's got to be, one or the other, 4 or 5. So you're going to be somewhere above or below. So a little bit below, and then again, consistently, another 4. So instead of being at the average of 9, where you would be if, for 2nd level, this totals to 8. Very close. But then again at 3rd level, even a little bit lower. So it's a 3. So we're a little bit farther behind the average, which would be 13.5. But this fighter only has 11 hit points. For the cleric, however, rolling d6s, the average for each die would be 3.5. So at 1st level, the converse, so just a little bit higher, but, generally, in the range. We're looking at 4 hit points instead of the average 3.5. At level 2, rolls a 5, so now it's up to 9 instead of the average of 7, so a little bit higher again. And at 3rd level, we get even luckier and roll a 6. So we're at 15 hit points, higher than the average 10.5, or 10 or 11 would be at the top of the bell curve. And also notably, higher than the fighter, even though the fighter was rolling d8s. For the magic user, 2 rolls a 2 at 1st level. The average for the d4 would be 2.5, so a little bit less than average. Level 2 rolls a 1, so it gets even farther behind. So instead of having the average would be 5 hit points, this magic user has 3. And then at level 3, makes up a little bit of the difference and rolls a 3. So comparing it to the average of 7.5, this magic user has 6 hit points, a little bit below the average, but not a terrible outlier. We expect the magic user to not have a great hit point total. All right, so what we can see here is that what was probability or, anticipation of what would happen in the randomness ahead of time then becomes more concrete and it becomes the fixed numbers that will be our hit point to maximums. So is it wrong that the cleric winds up with more hit points than the fighter? No, not at all. And yeah, I will say that those people that embrace the randomness and enjoy it, I totally support. And those people that add little, rules, house rules and such to try to limit it a bit, or even going to the fixed point, is also valid, valid way. But I have to say what grinds my gears a little bit are those people that say they embrace the randomness until the dice underperform for them, and then either purposely get their characters killed, or they roll up 10 characters and choose which one they want and call it random. That's let's be honest about what we're looking for here. Let me also bring in about the point about the precision of character knowledge. Here, since in our example, we know that the fighter has, at maximum hit points, 11 hit points. The cleric has 15. Does this change the style of play? Typically, being in the front line and soaking up a bit of damage to protect the rest of the party is one of the things that a fighter does. Knowing that the cleric in this specific example actually has more hit points than the fighter. Does it change the marching order? Does it change things? And if so, how does the fighter player feel about that? All right, so here's where we come to the thought experiment. What if we did not resolve our hit dice at the time of character generation or leveling, and just let the one roll stand for the rest of our campaign using that character? Instead, what if we left our hit points undifferentiated at the time we step into the dungeon? So we don't know how many hit points exactly we have, but we do know the hit dice based on the character class. So part of this means defining being alive as either having unspent hit dice or having some hit points in our hit point reserve. So here we go into the sample. So let's say our fighter, which previously we had determined had a maximum of 11 hit points. We go back, and this fighter has 3 D8 hit dice. And the first time they take damage, it is 4 damage. And it doesn't really matter if it's an orc stabbing them or they fell into a pit. We'll just know that they're losing 4 hit points. But they don't have any hit points in the hit point reserve, so we have to start spending hit dice. I should note that the numbers on the dice here in the unspent hit dice are irrelevant. It's just that we have 3 unspent D8 hit dice. And I'm actually using dice. You could actually use markers, glass beads, buttons, coins. It doesn't really matter. But the first unspent hit dice gets rolled and becomes spent, and the result is an 8. This supplies us with 8 hit points, enough to pay off the 4 damage that we're taking, and then the other 4 left over go into the hit point reserve. So at this point, 1 hit die is spent. We still have 2 unspent hit dice remaining, and 4 hit points. The next time we take damage, it's 5 hit points. We have 4 hit points in the reserve, but that's not entirely enough to pay off. We still have to pay off 1 more hit point. So we go back and have to spend another hit die. And it turns out that this time around, I'm incredibly lucky and get another 8. Paying off that last remaining 1 damage leaves us with 7 hit points in the reserve and only 1 remaining unspent hit die. Next source of damage was 3 hit points, which can be paid entirely out of the hit point reserve, reducing it from 7 down to 4. So at this point, we have 4 hit points plus 1 unspent hit die. Now that unspent hit die could be a 1, represent 1 hit point, or 8 hit points, or 4 or 5. We don't know. So we do know that we can take maybe somewhere between 4 and 11 hit points, which is a bit of a spread. So this is where that exact character knowledge kind of becomes a bit more fuzzy into a vague feeling of how much more we can withstand. And as it turns out, the next time we take damage is 3 damage, which we can resolve out of the hit point reserve, but it brings that hit point reserve down to 1 hit point plus 1 unspent hit die. So it's getting a bit dicey. Excuse the pun. And hopefully we're, disengaging and making our way out of the danger zone back to safety. But we do take 1 more source of damage for 2 hit points. And as it turns out, we have to spend, use that 1 hit point in the reserve, but we still have to pay off 1 more hit point. And our luck is running out. Not as bad as it could have been, but I roll for that last unspent hit die, 2. So that barely squeaks by because we pay off that second hit point of damage, and we only have 1 hit point and no unspent hit dice. We cannot take another point of damage without going down. And so that's the essence of the idea. And it's something that, it popped into my head, and I think it has some promise. What I'm doing is I'm kind of designing a game for like a one-shot, either a convention game or other, one-shot, and see how it works out. One of the interesting things, in doing that is that it kind of adds another lever, or dial that you can, fool around with a little bit. So let's say for like curing spells or healing potions, instead of like replenishing hit points, you could have certain magics, healing magics, replenish spent hit dice. And that's interesting because that makes the, let's say healing potion replenishes 1 hit die. It makes that healing potion a little bit more beneficial to the fighter with a D8 hit die than it does to the magic user. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's not a good thing, in your estimation. But it's interesting that it opens up some additional options. And since I'm doing a one-shot, I'm really not concerning myself with, the resting mechanics, or taking a full night's sleep and how you reset. But that would be something else that has to be considered. But I've had some ideas, but I don't have to drill into it too much to get the first test off the ground, because it may turn out that this is too complex. Just the juice isn't worth the squeeze, as I say. But I thought it was an interesting idea. I'd share it with you and see where it goes from there. And so, until I resurface, my friends, may your successes be many and your failures be memorable.